music coming through.
But yeah, and then to further, flesh out the answer to your question, Hero, um, uh, the Longhouse took it upon themselves because up until these recent years that we've been working with the Longhouse, there was no like genuinely matrilineal written version of it. There was only this Quaker version of the Great Law of Peace, which was drastically different, right? And so the only one that recently got written down, even in the Ganyegehe language. So we did it in our Ganyegehe classes, and so, but that I think recently some of big chunks of it had recently gotten lost somehow, right? So that's some of the more recent history about any written versions of it, but also some caveats to if you try to find any written versions of it, right? Yeah. And welcome, Jay Ryan. Um, we're in the right spot. These are open sessions. If you're just looking to join, it looks like you're unmuted, so a warning there. But feel free to introduce yourself. Of course, if you haven't already, I believe you've been with us before. Maybe you've introduced yourself before, but maybe worth doing it again. And welcome. We're just a little bit in the weeds here, trying to restructure together how we're thinking about um, one of the more exciting things evolving in advocates right now, which is an alternative route to grants in the ecosystem, which can speak to more the folks that are more comfortable with more informal structures than the GitHub structures, which might speak to more technical folks or folks with more just comfortable with GitHub in general. But also to open up more community-based funding and initiatives through Stacks Advocates here. And we had, thinking seriously about this for a long time. We have a spec already worked out that, a technical spec that, is part of the document that we're looking at. And this is one of the diagrams that we keep modifying and are continuing to modify even in this session to better reflect what we think is possible with these structures. And a lot of what we do is based in this clan design, this system design that's directly from these indigenous modes and dialogue in our research around governance and bottom-up organization, horizontal system design. So that's where we are. Welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself, like I said, and yeah, feel free to contribute any way you see fit. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. My name's Jacob. Jacob Ryan is my Twitter name. I'm one of the co-founders of Songs Radio. It's a music-specific NFT marketplace, and yeah, I've been a part of the Stacks Advocates for a while. I've been able to make a few meetings, like you mentioned to your point earlier. Happy to be here and contribute as much as possible. I love the advocates and everything it stands for. I love the governance, bottoms up. Like I just love everything it's about. So I'm sorry that my time is limited, but I definitely pop in whenever I have time and I see you guys meeting. So here I am tonight.
Hey, beautiful to have you, Mike. It's beautiful to, a lot of gratitude for any time you can squeeze in for us. And, feel free to jump in whenever you see that you've gotten a grasp of things or even for clarity, right? We'd love to have you here. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense, at least a little bit where I was going, Hero, to answer some of your questions about the history and to clarify some things about.
Let me pitch in.
Somebody here?
Let me pitch in, Harold, and relieve your jaw muscles. I'll just like try to sorry. I'll try to describe it from my point of view, like just like let's talk normie language. So one sorry. So what? God damn it, we have Fred. Okay, so I'm thinking of journeys itself as like in experimentation. We could just start with, as I mentioned before, people who are doing like repeated tasks. God, it was not Fred that left. But once we start with that, like some people who do translations, if there isn't like funding for a certain task that like recording meetings like Hero or whatever Hero does, like basically, um, and start off from this existing path. Once we since this is something that is going to be 100% working. This is a journey that already exists but isn't directly funded. Once we start from that, with that, we can then um, uh, as we mentioned before, like relieve the advocates program from that duty and just like put it in journeys and have like the advocates program focus on that. That means that there is more money in advocates to be distributed, and that means also like introducing more people to advocates, and then um, uh, um, the machine or the pipeline or the funnel becomes advocates, journeys, grants, and so on. That's the way I've been thinking about it. Like not in terms of like system design. I think system design, from our experience, has been we started a program like the advocates program, and it's doing okay, and then uh, uh, granularly we add in governance, we add in um, plan structure, and so on. But that's what I've been thinking about. We have a resource, I think a river that exists, that we don't need to like build or dig a different river from that lake. But in terms of system design, I don't think that we'd ever be able to create a perfect model, except if we have conversations. And like one example is of what I'm saying is like MDAO creation is optional. Like sometimes it's just like one person. It's not a team, so you never need a micro DAO. And with the high trust that already exists with existing members who do repeated tasks, you would not need an observer anyway. Um, the documents and the documents or the journey. I think documentation when it comes to like actually putting that in something that is as concrete as like formal proposals or past proposals is kind of like implicit anyway. We can just like actually document what already exists in the advocates program. So I'll just say that we're getting there. We have the experience that we had so far with Aqua has been I think more difficult than the ones that we're gonna have with people like Craig or Hero or the advisor. The people who are actually doing like the same kind of work. They enjoy it, but they're not compensated enough for it. So that's what I've been thinking, to be honest.
Oh no, thank you kindly, Haas. Yeah, I think that language that you're using is important, right? For clarity, right? To zoom out and zoom out and zoom out again. Yeah, particularly especially when we're just coming off of discussion topics that was so deep into system design, right? Like, where can we start to integrate Turtlewolf and Bear into Journey specifically, right? So, but I agree too in terms of the way system design that's genuinely bottom up. The way it works is with seed shapes, right? It's not with this overly prescriptive, already fleshed out system. It's with the seed shapes from whoever's a generator of value at any that given time at the initial conditions of the system. So the way that Haas has been phrasing the language around how the tooling helps us along is important in terms of just being an assistant. It's just assisting us through, right? What are some of our more organic flows, right? And for Journeys to speak to that as well in that same sense, right? Work folks are already doing, right? Work that is already there in a lot of ways, and just pointing to it in a lot of ways. So thank you kindly, Haas. But yeah, I know we got into the weeds in a little bit before that discussion point, so I'll leave the floor open for anything on folks' mind right now.
Maybe I'll tag on to Hal's conversation. So my initial thought is that I think there's a couple of things like the mapping side of things, like if we do not have any, so you could have like two versions. Like if you envisage with me, so you could have just task based, as in like just a Stack Africa program that people come in and we just without any clan system, and um, people can be supported, and also the people around can admin around this without any officially explicit clan structure. So that could be one role. But then my question would be then that just becomes a simple program for community funding. Then I feel like what makes here like really different is somewhat implicitly or subtly like really sort of does incorporate the system design a little bit more explicitly, because I feel like if it's like the code of conduct, for example, the work that Julia and I went through, like we began with the version just like everybody just just do whatever task. Maybe it's the observer wasn't assigned to a particular clan. It's just anybody that is of the personality type. I think it would just like make. I think we potentially could just utilize this special powers of this system design that is what's truly unique to this place. Otherwise we would not we would just it would just become a very generic community effort for funding that could have existed on any chain, with done by anybody without having studied any system design structure of the turtle, wolf, and bear. So for me, I think what would really drive this like home run is to make it slightly more, you leverage that more, and also that um like potentially you could see, say, the type of journey like the one Agva's done. He's like very wolf, so you map it out. Say, okay, the other person, because from my understanding, once Harold mentioned about mapping, like mapping different ecosystem in stacks. So if I relate back to this particular work, like you can map the type of tasks, the type of work, or type of journey being created. Say Akva's journey is more um, wolf-like, and then you have many different journey that of different type of client. Then maybe that creates a better balance, and the people who are supporting those things, um, the admin side, yeah, I don't know. I just have this maybe more idealistic point of view that the more we can leverage on the like, you don't have to wrap it in a way like um, people find it weird to have animals, but you can wrap it differently. But underneath the hood, you still have very ingrained ethos of the turtle bedroom wolf system design, um, to make it really different.
No, no, it sounds beautiful, man. No, no, and also I couldn't help but no, I don't know, get really hyped up hearing you talk because I don't know, when we first were conceiving some of these journeys ideas, Haas specifically, bring them to the table. You know, a lot of what you were saying popped in my head, right? Like with like this, you know, I'm immediately thinking full integration of clan systems and things like this, right? But obviously, I can't really come into these sessions like that. I can expect y'all to know exactly what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm glad that we kind of went with the flow in the sense and like stripped it down to like some of these bare modular tools and then now circling back to now with all of us having a lot more firmer grasp of this of Turtle Wolf and Bear, like to hear you eloquently lay out how applicable system design is or Turtle Wolf and Bear is to something specific as journeys or conflict resolution, these things. It's a beautiful thing, and also to see your language around mapping and tracking for balance, right, is huge, right? Because I think that is one of the biggest things I was excited for with journeys. More on my lonesome potentially, right? Is that potential mapping and tracking for balance, right? Somehow, somewhere, like you said, and I actually like your language of, even if it doesn't have to be as explicit and confuse folks that aren't as familiar with it as us, for us to still have it in our tool belt somewhere as a ways of analyzing things, right? Is interesting, right? As a way of building it in. So no, I'm not. I'm all for this line of thinking around this as well, right? And however way that it comes about will be interesting. I think a lot can be said with the ways that we're thinking about the data visualizations and things like this, right? Too, in terms of helping us do that type of mapping and tracking of what might be types of journeys or what have you. But yeah, I think it's a fairly open-ended discussion that we can have just on that to really dial in. But I'm excited that you're thinking along those lines because I think we're on similar wavelengths in that way. But hopefully it makes sense for other folks too, or maybe it sparks some things for folks as a way we can integrate it as well. But yeah, thank you kindly. But yeah, I don't think it can be overstated here, right? Because they're ultimately talking about different kinds of innovation and tracking for the balance therein, right? So sustainability innovation through this system design effort, right? So, yeah, if we can dial in on that sometime soon, it would be beautiful to add to these sessions somehow. Yeah. Yeah, then touching back to some of Haas's language, if folks remember some of the ways Haas clarified some things about what we're talking about, does it spark anything, right? I know we're kind of teetering back and forth between real deep Turtlewolf and Bear integration discussions and different angles that it can take, and important rephrasings and of the basic, outline of journeys and what it's going to be achieving. So, I think all of that is up for discussion. As long as we don't get too many different points going simultaneously, I think we'll be okay.
I do agree though, like there's so many different types of journeys. Um, we would realize, you know, we would have a version of what we think a diagram would look and how, um, sometimes there's one person or three people involved in the journey, and that could be a drawn out uh, into a flow or a chart. But I do think like in 6 months' time, once we actually try out many different of the journeys of in like almost like battle tested in real life, we would have that diagram will evolve, I think. But what we could do is to go back to the data thing. If we want to create charts or fit create a chart or update the picture diagram, we could always take some of the past examples of did a thing and see how, if that was in journey, how the flow would look like in order to help us create um, the various kind of to check that our diagram works, the flow works, say the translation work or Aqua stuff. Take a few different examples and uh, fit that to uh, a flow. See if it actually makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Like, there's some point of reference, in data things if we look close enough. Maybe this informs some of how we're thinking about um, what trait that it may speak to if it was a journey, right? If this is what you're speaking to. But also, I think there's a few action items that are coming out of this session, right? Like Haas has opened the design space up a little bit broader than we were thinking of it before, with asking us to think seriously about the clan design and integrating it into journeys. We discussed a little bit how that might look today. I know I'll be maybe asynchronously, right? We can discuss this more in depth, as it relates to some of the intricacies of those the components in the journey spec, right? Some of the admin stuff, some of the basic flow stuff, but also some of the tracking stuff now that you're mentioning, right, Hero? I think that this is something that we can think about. Obviously, I'll be thinking about how to change the diagram to reflect some of that, and thinking of other more outward-facing diagrams and one-pagers that would be more for like a Jenny or folks at the foundation or other folks that are just looking in for the first time. So those are some action items, that are not just that I'll be thinking of for myself, but anybody can pick up and, ping me if you want to work on it together, or ping anybody. You guys want to get together on some of these things. What else? Am I missing anything else? Haas or anybody that might be coming out of this session? I know, Merrick, we both have a hard stop out in about 15 minutes, right? But yeah, let me know if I'm forgetting, if I'm leaving anything out. But this has been exciting in that way. Some polishing, I think, of the spec coming up, and also some opening up of what we can do design wise, along with that polishing. So yeah, leave the floor open.
Can folks hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on the freeway, and I'll talk slow. I have this thing I've been thinking. What if Stuart was able to curate a story for us to listen to or to read, and then we reflect afterwards with what stands out for us in the story? But in that story, he plants seeds for like a wolf would notice this, a bear would notice this, a turtle would notice this. This would be important to so and so. And then people could sit and listen. And then what stands out, they can like write about what they remember something, and then maybe that could be reflected upon to like see what. Yeah, I don't know. I just been thinking about that because I know when I hear different things, different parts of me are like, oh yeah. And I keep talking about how I think I go through seasons through the energies, and how I feel like I'm feeling shifts when they change or something, and it's just, I'm wondering if that would be a helpful person for someone who's like, well, I don't know. And then maybe it's something to like resonate, reflect. It's a little more personal. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's just something I've been like daydreaming about.
I really like that. I think that's a real creative approach to onboarding folks into Turtle, Wolf, and Bear, right? That is really, could be really efficient without misusing the word, because of how personal that would be, even, right? Even if there's like, if it's an audio recording, or if it is a video of some kind, and just that type of engagement and interaction, particularly from Kazee Ganzadil side, Stuart's side, the Longhouse's side, and how we can pinpoint whether or not this is actually speaking to Turtle, Wolf, and Bear or not, right? Through this direct way, right? Without much like polished technology even around it, right? I think it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, no, maybe we run this by the Longhouse on Wednesday. If you're there with us, maybe you can do it. You can bring it up, since this is your thought. But yeah, I think with the context, the Longhouse would be maybe be able to squeeze out that time. I know they're pretty busy, but you might get them excited enough to get it done for us, even if it's like a small story, for sure. We get a lot of small, like, on the fly stories in council, so it shouldn't be that hard. Yeah.
That's exciting to think about.
Yeah.
I just imagine it taking at like what my intrinsic motivations are. Like when I listen to also Merrick, thank you for the opening. Whenever I listen to that opening, the story, I just like, all of me lights up, and I'm just nodding and like rubbing my heart, and I'm so happy because it's like, yeah. And yeah, I just think it would be so neat to hear some sort of I don't know, some sort of story that's like, I don't know, for a reason, I didn't grow up with stories for reasons. I got like creepy fairy tales that like gave me trauma, like got bad omens and all kinds of stuff. Like it's all weird. Like I don't know. I listen to other cultures like tell stories, and it's like you hear a story about some animals, and you totally know how to like relate with other people down the road when there's like a problem because of like the animals. And I don't know. That's just magic to me.
No, for real, for real. The Grimm brothers can be rough, right? In a lot of ways. It's wild what they chose to tell the children. Yeah.
Like, kids have to know this. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, for real, for real. But yeah, no, thank you kindly, y'all. We should do a closing too. I don't want to have to stop us abruptly. Myself and Merrick, I think we'll have to go, but you guys can continue without us. But whoever does continue, maybe try to do your best at a closing of some kind, just to throw that out there before myself and Merrick head out. But thank you kindly, everybody, for bringing all. Hollis, thanks for dropping that bomb of integrating the clan system into it. I think it makes myself, like precisely because of what Hero mentioned, right? Like being able to track for sustainability long term in what is ultimately innovation, whether it's community event, like community coordination based grants, or the technical grants that can still come out of advocates, right? But maybe there's a blend more of community events and technical. I don't know, but this is exciting, right? Because of that capacity for tracking that's opened up, like you said, Hero. Something that makes us unique, so we might as well leverage it, right? As many different ways as possible. And it's exciting to know that there's that level of understanding amongst us too, to say the least. So yeah, I'll leave the floor open for any other direction you guys want to go, potentially without us too. But thank you kindly. Hollis, if I'm missing any action items that I tried to list off there that you can think of, I'll try to listen for if you have anything or anybody has anything, as you mentioned, Ella. That says we could probably just close it out. But, okay.
I don't know, but it seems like it went long enough.
Okay, I'm down. Who wants to do closing? I can do the closing. Yeah, I'll start. Unless you want to do it, Des, no?
I'll go on too long.
Okay. I'll keep a short one.
Yeah.
I'll introduce myself, right? It's Harold Yonjits, Gail, the son of Gail. Yonjat Yotiskadevagay. What this this for me means temporarily under the protection of the Bear Clan, of the Longhouse Five Nations Confederacy. And we'll give thanks, right? Starting off with Nawagoa Juguntazay, Yonki Sota Garakwa, Yonkinustuna Goa, Gomarina Nagadats, Tukundu Nakadat Gawas, Aotio Dancer Tukundu Nakadat Gawas, Danum Gaina Rasalaskana Goa, Danum Degani Deo Hade, Danum Yonta Niatum, Yonta Hioni, Discada Evergame, Danum Honeste, Oneganus, Danum Gayandawana. So that's my short closing. And Ganya Geha for giving thanks to Sky Woman, right? This great spiral of creation, right? This ode to regenerative systems design, right? As important in our sequencing whenever we're building any type of technology, anything on top of that, right? Social organization, what have you. Giving thanks to our grandmother Moon, right? This Yonka Sota Karakwa. Understanding the role in this grander design of ours, the regenerative qualities that she brings to our atmosphere, the starting of our Mother Earth turning, these type of things. These important things for us zooming out, understanding our place in time, history, going down to our Mother Earth, or the mothers in all strains of life, understanding our intention to restore this regenerative matrilineal sequencing authority, and understanding of commons, and giving thanks to the three sisters, Oneste, giving thanks to the Great Law of Peace and the Tua Wampum with Gainarasa Skanagoa, Digini de Ohade, giving thanks through the waters and the clan system, and balance, like Gaindawana. And we push that away on all three levels of creation that we mentioned there, right? Edisawit, Edisawit, Edisawit. If I misplaced anything, please put it in its proper place. And thank you kindly, y'all, for today, as always. Hopefully see you guys soon.
It's gonna go.
It's gonna go, it's gonna go. Kindly, Haas, Merrick, everybody else.
Yeah, where are you guys going?
Mark, we gotta meet with Mark.
Oh.
See you guys soon.